My boss caught me on a blind date, then whispered, "Why didn't you ask me out? Romantic audio story." The worst part was not that my blind date was failing. The worst part was when I looked up and saw my boss sitting 10 feet away, watching me with calm eyes like she was reviewing a report. I had a bouquet of yellow daisies on the table. My palms were sweating so badly I could feel the stems slipping in my hands. My heart was pounding hard enough to shake my chest. I wanted to disappear into the couch cushions behind me, but it was too late. Olivia Grant had already seen me. My name is Ryan Walker. I am 26 years old, and I live alone in a small second-floor apartment in Mission Hills, right in the center of San Diego. My place looks like a man who pressed pause on his life. I have a worn-out sofa I bought from Craigslist, a desk with my computer set up, and faded curtains with a map of the United States printed on them. Most nights I sit in front of my screen, gaming or scrolling through Reddit, laughing at memes like they are my social life. It is quiet. Too quiet sometimes. Every morning at 7 sharp I drive to Media X, the company where I work as an IT technician. My job is steady. I fix servers. I reset passwords. I help people connect webcams and explain Zoom like it is rocket science. I do not chase big headlines like the content team. I just keep things running. Then I go home and repeat it all the next day. Dating used to be something I tried. In college, I fell hard twice. I stayed up late texting. I believed love could fix everything. Both times I gave more than I got. After that, I buried myself in work and convinced myself I did not need anyone. My mom lives in Chicago, and she is the only person I call without thinking. Somewhere along the way, I stopped trying to meet anyone new. No apps, no dates, no risk. Then, my best friend Ben decided to shake my quiet life. Ben works in IT too, but he treats life like a game show. One afternoon, he walked into my cubicle holding a half-eaten salad like it was a trophy. He told me he knew a girl from his art class and that I had to try a blind date. I told him the last setup was a disaster. He laughed and said this one was different. I do not know why I agreed. Maybe I was tired of going home to silence. Maybe I was tired of being safe. By Thursday, the date felt real. I had to ask my boss if I could leave early to get ready. Olivia Grant is the director of tech at Media X. She is in her late 30s, always wearing sharp blazers and heels that click down the hallway with purpose. She runs meetings like a general and expects the best from everyone. I respect her more than anyone at work. She is fair, strong, and impossible to ignore. When I asked to leave early, she studied me for a second like she was reading between the lines. I told her it was personal. She gave a small smile and told me to finish my tickets first. I thanked her and walked out feeling like I had just escaped a test. On the way to the cafe, I stopped at Mrs. Miller's flower shop. I had passed it 100 times but never stepped inside. The air smelled like clean water and fresh leaves. I asked for yellow daisies. Mrs. Miller smiled and told me daisies stood for new beginnings. That felt hopeful. I carried them carefully to my car and practiced a calm smile in the mirror. The cafe was warm and softly lit, tucked near downtown with a balcony facing a small park. I arrived early and set the daisies on the table. My heart would not slow down. Then, the door opened, and Olivia Grant walked in holding an espresso in her laptop. My body froze. She scanned the room, chose a corner table, and sat down like this was any other day. I turned my face away, hoping she would not notice the bouquet in front of me. But she looked up. Our eyes met. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "Ryan," she said. I felt like I had been caught doing something illegal. I told her I was meeting someone. She glanced at the flowers and wished me luck. She turned back to her laptop, but I could feel her attention every few minutes. Every time I looked up, she was glancing my way. Then Carmen walked in. She wore a bright red dress and glossy lipstick. She looked younger than I expected. She hugged me quickly and sat down. I handed her the daisies. She called them cute and placed them on the table without much interest. Then she pulled out her phone. I tried. I asked about her art. I asked about her hobbies. I ordered her latte with extra foam like Ben suggested. Her answers were short. Her eyes kept dropping back to her screen. Every time the conversation slowed, I felt smaller. And every time I glanced to the side, I saw Olivia watching. After 20 minutes, Carmen said her friend needed her and rushed out. She left the daisies behind. I sat there staring at them, feeling foolish. Another failed attempt. Another reminder that maybe I was not built for this. Then I heard heels against the wooden floor. Olivia closed her laptop and walked over to my table. She looked down at the abandoned bouquet, then at me. Her voice was gentle, but there was something playful in it. "That did not go as planned," she said. I laughed dryly and shrugged. "Guess not." She picked up the daisies carefully like they mattered. "Mind if I take these?" she asked. No reason to let them wilt. I nodded, still embarrassed. Then she looked at me in a way she never had before. Her voice lowered slightly. "You know, Ryan," she said, "maybe you should stop doing blind dates." I forced a smile. Easier said than done. Her lips curved softly, but her eyes stayed steady on mine. "Then why did you not ask me out instead?" For a second, I thought I misheard her. Olivia Grant stood in front of me holding my daisies like they belonged to her, and she had just asked why I did not ask her out. My brain stopped working. The cafe noise faded into the background. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. "You mean as a joke?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Her expression changed just a little. Softer, but sharper at the same time. "Do I look like I am joking, Ryan?" I swallowed. She was still calm, still controlled, but there was something real in her eyes. Something I had never seen in her office. "You are my boss," I said quietly. "And you are a grown man," she replied without missing a beat. She held the daisies closer to her chest and tilted her head slightly. "I watched you sit here and try so hard with someone who would not even look up from her phone. You were kind. You showed effort. That matters." My face felt hot. "You were watching me." "I happened to be here," she said, but there was a small smile at the corner of her mouth. "And, yes, I noticed." I let out a slow breath. "That was humiliating." "No," she said gently. "It was honest." That word hit me harder than the failed date. "Most people do not try anymore," she continued. "They play games. They act cool. You did not. You were real." I stared at her, trying to understand what was happening. "If this makes you uncomfortable, forget I said anything," she added. "We can go back to being boss and employee. But I am not going to pretend I did not feel something when I saw you sitting here alone." My heart pounded even louder. "I feel something too," I admitted. "I just do not know what to do with it." Her eyes held mine. "Then do what you would do if I was not your boss. Ask me out." The world felt unreal for a second. She stood there confident and calm, but there was a quiet vulnerability in her face. Like she had already taken a risk and was waiting to see if I would meet her halfway. "Okay," I said, forcing myself to breathe. "Olivia, would you go out with me?" She smiled, small but certain. "Yes." Just like that. One word, simple and steady. "When?" I asked. "Not tonight. I have work to finish. And you look like you need a moment to recover. But this weekend." "Dinner," I said quickly. "Dinner works." I nodded. "I will text you." She started to walk away, then paused and looked back at me. "And Ryan?" "Yeah. Do not tell Ben yet." That caught me off guard, but I nodded. "Of course." Then she left the cafe, holding my daisies like they were hers all along. I sat there, staring at the empty chair across from me, wondering if I had imagined everything. That night, my apartment felt smaller than usual. The map curtains looked dull, my computer screen glowed, but I did not feel like gaming. I kept replaying the moment in my head. The way she said my name. The way her voice dropped. The way she looked at me like she actually saw me. I opened my phone and stared at a blank message box for 5 full minutes. "Hi, Olivia. Dinner Saturday at 7 in Little Italy." I deleted it, rewrote it, deleted it again. Finally, I sent a simple message with the restaurant name and time before I could overthink it. Her reply came fast. "Saturday works. Text me the address." I let out a laugh that sounded half nervous, half excited. Saturday arrived slowly. At work on Friday, I avoided her office. I did not trust myself to act normal. In meetings, she spoke like usual, clear and focused. No hint of the cafe, no hint of the daisies. Only once did she glance at me, and that small look made my stomach flip. Ben kept asking about Carmen. I told him it did not work out. He shook his head and called her cold. He had no idea what had actually happened. Saturday night, I arrived early at the Italian place in Little Italy. String lights hung over the patio. The smell of garlic and fresh bread filled the air. I had ironed my shirt twice. I even stopped at a small flower stand and bought daisies again, but a smaller bunch this time. When Olivia walked toward me, I almost forgot how to breathe. She was not wearing a blazer, no heels. She had on a light sundress and simple flats. Her hair was down in soft waves. She looked younger, warmer, like a version of herself I had never seen inside the office walls. "Hi," she said with a gentle smile. "Hi." Her eyes dropped to the flowers in my hand. Daisies again. I handed them to her. "I guess I am becoming predictable." She held them carefully and smiled. "I like predictable when it means sincere." We sat down across from each other. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence was not awkward. It felt charged, like we both knew this was a line we could not uncross. "Tell me something real about you," she said softly. "Not the work version." I took a deep breath. "I get lonely," I admitted. "I act like I am fine, but most nights it is just me and a screen." Her expression changed. "I understand that more than you think." We talked for hours. About her childhood. About my mom in Chicago. About the pressure she feels running the tech department. About how exhausting it is to always look strong. At some point, she reached across the table and touched my hand. It was light, but it sent a rush through me. "It feels risky," I said quietly. "It is," she replied, "but it feels honest." Honest. That word again. As we left the restaurant, the city lights reflected in her eyes. She looked at me not like an employee, not like a boss, but like a woman choosing to be there. And in that moment, I knew this was not just a fun secret. This could change everything. Monday morning at Media X felt strange, like the building knew something had shifted. Olivia walked through the hallway in a bright blue blazer, her ponytail tight, heels clicking with the same steady rhythm as always. If anyone looked at her, they would see the same director of tech who ran meetings without blinking. If anyone looked at me, they would see the same IT guy answering tickets and fixing webcams. But inside, nothing felt the same. Every time her voice carried across the office, I remembered the way she looked in that sundress. Every time her name popped into my inbox, my stomach flipped. We kept it professional. A quick good morning, a nod in meetings. No private smiles, no lingering looks. The second I got home, though, my phone would light up. She sent small messages that made my quiet apartment feel less empty. A photo of the daisies on her nightstand. A short text that said, "Thinking of you." A joke about a client who could not find the power button on his laptop. I would sit on my worn-out sofa smiling at my screen like a teenager. We kept seeing each other outside of work. Quiet dinners, walks by the water, late-night drives where the city lights reflected on the bay. In those moments, she was not the strong director everyone saw. She was a woman who admitted she was tired of always being in control. One night after a movie, we sat in her car with the engine off. The windows fogged slightly from the cool air outside. Her hand rested on my wrist like she was making sure I stayed. "I did not expect this," she said softly. "Me neither." She looked at me with that calm confidence, but there was relief in her eyes, like she could finally let her guard down. "It feels risky," I said. "It is," she replied. "But it feels right." For a few weeks, the secret almost felt exciting, like we had our own hidden world that no one else could touch. But offices run on rumors the same way servers run on power. It started small. One Tuesday, I received an email that the project I had been leading was reassigned. No warning, no explanation, just a note about restructuring. I stared at the screen, confused. I had worked hard on that project. I had stayed late. I had taken extra tickets. Later that day, I walked into the pantry to grab coffee and heard two developers whispering near the snack shelf. "Must be nice having the boss in your corner." "Yeah, some people get special treatment." They stopped talking when they saw me. One of them grabbed a granola bar and left like he had somewhere urgent to be. I stood there holding my coffee cup, feeling heat rise in my chest. The rest of the week felt different. Lunch invites slowed down. Emails were shorter. Conversations ended quicker. No one said anything directly, but the air felt colder. I tried to ignore it. I did not want to bring stress to Olivia. She already carried enough. But she noticed. After a long meeting where I barely spoke, my phone buzzed. "You seemed quiet today. Are you okay?" I replied that I was just tired. She answered almost instantly, "Do not shut me out. Come over tonight." It was the first time I went to her condo. It was not flashy, just warm and calm. Bookshelves lined the walls. Framed photos sat on a side table. On her balcony were potted plants under soft string lights. In one corner, I saw daisies growing in a small pot. That hit me harder than I expected. She poured wine and sat on the couch with her feet tucked under her. No blazer, no heels, just Olivia. "Tell me," she said gently. "People are talking," I admitted. Her jaw tightened. "About us. At least they suspect something." My project got reassigned. I overheard comments. She closed her eyes for a second and rubbed her temples. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I tried to keep everything clean." "I know, but I do not want people thinking I am here because of you." She looked at me firmly. "You are here because you are good at your job." "Maybe," I said. "But rumors do not care about the truth." She stayed silent for a moment, then reached for my hand. "If you want to stop, tell me now. I will not hold you in something that damages your career." My chest tightened. "I do not want to stop." Relief softened her face. "Then we handle it smart," she said. "No special treatment, no favoritism. We work harder than anyone else." I nodded, even though fear still sat in my stomach. The next week brought a massive project, the biggest one since I started at Media X. A major client wanted a full overhaul. The deadline was brutal. Olivia was chosen to lead it. In the first meeting, she stood at the front of the conference room, calm and sharp. She laid out the plan clearly, assigned tasks, asked for commitment. But the room felt tense. When she assigned me even a small task, I felt eyes on me. Like every move had to prove something. 2 team members requested transfers within days. Morale dipped fast. I worked like I had never worked before. I stayed late, fixing server issues. I helped other departments, even when it was not my job. I answered tickets faster than ever. Not to impress Olivia, to prove I belonged. Slowly, a few people softened. A thank you here, a nod there, small changes, but they mattered. Olivia, though, looked exhausted. One stormy evening, rain slammed against the windows and thunder rolled over the building. Most people had gone home. I walked past her office and saw her sitting at her desk with her head in her hands. I knocked softly and stepped inside. "Olivia." She looked up. Her eyes were red, her jaw tight. "This is falling apart," she whispered. "The team does not trust me. They think I am biased. If we lose this bid, I am done." I pulled a chair close and sat beside her. "We are not losing," I said. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. "I am so tired," she admitted. "Tired of proving myself. Tired of acting strong all the time." I reached for her and held her. She rested her head against my shoulder like she had been carrying too much alone. "You do not have to be strong with me," I whispered. Her hands gripped my shirt. "Promise you will not leave if this crashes," she said quietly. I knew what this could cost us. I knew the risk, but I also knew the truth. I am not going anywhere. She pulled back slightly and looked at me. There was fear in her eyes, but there was fire too. "Then we fight," she said. "We fight." The rain pounded harder against the windows. Then my phone buzzed. I pulled it out, expecting another support ticket. It was an email from Human Resources. Meeting request for Ryan Walker. My stomach dropped. because in that moment, I understood something clearly. The secret was no longer safe. The meeting with Human Resources was scheduled for the next morning at 9. I barely slept that night. I lay in my small apartment staring at the ceiling, the map curtains moving slightly in the breeze from my fan. Every worst-case scenario ran through my head. Warning letter. Transfer. Termination. Maybe both of us called in and told we had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. When I walked into the office the next morning, everything looked normal. Too normal. People typing. Phones ringing. Coffee brewing. It felt strange that the world kept spinning while my stomach twisted itself into knots. At 9 sharp, I stepped into the HR office. The woman behind the desk smiled politely and asked me to sit. Her tone was calm, almost friendly, which somehow made it more nerve-wracking. "We have received concerns about a possible personal relationship between you and your direct supervisor," she said carefully. "We need to clarify a few things." My throat felt dry, but I kept my voice steady. "Yes, we are seeing each other." She nodded and asked if there had been any favoritism, any unfair treatment, any conflict of interest. I answered honestly. No special raises, no secret promotions, no hidden benefits. If anything, I had worked harder than ever. She took notes. Then she looked at me over her glasses. "This situation can create complications. However, performance results matter here. The recent client bid was successful. Leadership has reviewed the workflow. There is no evidence of misconduct at this time." At this time. Those 3 words hung in the air. She continued. "Upper management will be speaking with Ms. Grant about structural adjustments to avoid direct oversight. Until then, professionalism is expected. No exceptions," I nodded. I would not give them a reason to doubt me. When I stepped out of the HR office, Olivia was standing at the end of the hallway, not close enough to draw attention, just close enough that I could see the question in her eyes. I gave her a small nod. Later that afternoon, she called a team meeting. Everyone gathered in the conference room, tension thick in the air. I stood near the back, hands clasped behind me to stop them from shaking. Olivia stood at the front, calm as ever. "I want to address something directly," she said. "There have been rumors about my personal life. Yes, Ryan and I are in a relationship. We kept it private out of respect for our roles, but I will not allow gossip to define this workplace." The room went silent. She continued, her voice firm but steady. "Ryan earns his position here through his work. If anyone believes otherwise, look at his performance over the last month. Results speak for themselves." All eyes turned to me. My face burned, but I stood straight. I would not shrink. She finished simply. "That is all. Back to work." The shift in the room was slow but real. A few nods, a few looks of understanding. One developer who had whispered in the pantry gave me a small shrug, almost like an apology. Over the next week, upper management made a decision. Olivia would move into a broader strategic role. She would no longer be my direct supervisor. The structure would change. The conflict would be removed. The promotion was well-deserved. No one could argue that. That Friday evening, after the office cleared out, I found her standing by the window overlooking the city. "They approved the transition," she said softly. I smiled. "You earned it." She looked at me with a mixture of relief and emotion. "I was ready to fight everyone if I had to," she admitted. "But I am glad it did not come to that." I stepped closer. "You did not fight alone." She reached for my hand, not caring that a few people were still packing up behind us. For the first time, it did not feel like we were hiding. That weekend, we drove along the coast with the windows down. The ocean stretched wide and endless beside us. We stopped at an overlook and leaned against the railing, watching waves crash below. "I used to think strength meant handling everything by myself," she said quietly. "I used to think staying safe meant staying alone," I replied. She turned toward me, wind moving her hair gently across her face. "You changed that." "No," I said. "We changed it." A week later, I took her back to the same cafe where it all began. The same warm lights. The same balcony view. The same soft hum of conversations around us. And yes, I brought daisies again. When I handed them to her, she laughed softly and held them close like they were something precious. "Full circle," she said. I looked at her across the table and remembered how small I felt the night my blind date walked out. I thought that was the worst moment of my year. It turned out to be the turning point of my life. "You know what is crazy?" I said. "I thought that blind date was a disaster." She squeezed my hand gently. "It was a blessing." I smiled. "You once asked why I did not ask you out." She raised an eyebrow playfully. "Yes, I did." I leaned forward slightly. I guess I needed to sit in the wrong seat before I noticed the right one was watching me the whole time. Her eyes softened in that way that still makes my chest tighten. "You did not need a blind date to find love, Ryan," she said quietly. "You just needed someone who saw you." Sitting there with her hand in mine and daisies between us again, I finally understood something simple. Love does not always walk in through the front door the way you expect. Sometimes it is sitting 10 feet away, waiting for you to look up.